It's 11/11/2010. I'm Jack Blood, your narrator, your radio gun. As always, we are joined by my good friend Richard Andrew Grove. He has been one of the great voices out there for several years. He has put together a new package, which I want to bring your attention to. And I should say that Richard was a 9/11 survivor. He was supposed to be in the towers that day, and, well, because of traffic and some really good luck, he wasn't, and because of that, he's with us today. Richard, good to have you.
Thanks, Jack. Glad to be here.
Yeah, we've covered this, a bunch of things you've done in the past. You've been on the show a bunch of times. We covered, your whistleblowing from 9/11, your intimate knowledge of Kroll, which I might want to talk to you a little bit about on the show today because there have been some new developments with the CIA of Wall Street, who we think was intimately involved in 9/11. We have also talked to you about AIG. Of course, our interview that we did when AIG was receiving all of our money went ballistic and totally viral on the internet, so I thank you for that. You've put together a new media model. It's called tragedyandhope.com. It's interactive. It works like Facebook and MySpace and some of this, and you are posting a lot of information on there for free, and you're really taking things to a new level. Your new project is called What You've Been Missing, Exposing the Noble Lie. We put part 1 on our website, deadlinelive.info. Thousands of subjects covered by you and all the people that I know you've worked with in the past. Congratulations. I really like the work.
Well, thanks, Jack, and I really appreciate the support. I know that all of us worked really hard on it, and there's few places on the internet to start with that would show this type of content, and we're just hoping that more and more people will kind of put their opinions aside and just watch it with an open mind and see if it makes them think, because that's the whole point, to provoke your thinking.
Yeah, and some people are going to question the information. I think that's the whole point of it, right? Question
Absolutely.
You're hearing.
It's a conversation starter, not a definitive position on anything.
I had somebody post up on my website going, that for some reason this seems like disinformation. How could something be disinformation, Rich, when you're saying think for yourself, think for yourself, think for yourself? That's usually kind of the non-red flag. I like it when I hear that because I'm not being told, like listening to the Sean Vanity or Bill O'Reilly show or the Laurie O'Donnell show. I'm not being told what is proper for me to think, what's politically correct, and how I can fit in with my fellow Americans. This is really the alarming. This is the alarm sound. This is it. You need to be used critical thinking. So what have we been missing, basically? Give us that in a nutshell.
Well, to address that comment very quickly, I have a lot to learn, and I'm a little confused by it. I don't see how it could be construed as disinformation because we're not telling anyone what to think. However, I would like to focus in on the seems to be part, the part where we don't have certainty, because that's what the next episode's all about. How to attain certainty, knowing that there's this thing called the noble lie out there, and the fact that there are whole industries set up to exploit us and to exploit our ignorance, which comes from a public education system which has been censored. So in considering these things, we have to understand first, none of us really knows what's going on. That's why we're all researching. That's why people are listening to this show. That's why you were talking to Peter in the hour before about mortgages. Because a mortgage, if you look up that word, it means a death pledge. So I think a lot of people who get involved with mortgages are the same type of people who aren't looking at the words of the contracts that they're signing. And that's where critical thinking comes in. It comes to, taking in information through your 5 senses and processing it through your thought, not just storing it as fact. And so we want everyone to question everything that's going on, especially what we're doing. There's 5 pages of notes that go with that first episode of What You've Been Missing. So in there, you have all the links. And really, the show is about getting you to watch the videos in their full entirety from those links and from those notes. Yeah. And it's just a way to introduce people to all these things that aren't being shown to them on corporate media.
Well, don't worry about that, Rich, because if somebody does a comment like that, it usually provokes even more people to watch it, which I just want them to do. I think, we're a little predictable. We're a little set in our ways. And if people hear, the word Martin Luther King, I don't know if that came up in your video, but that's just one of the buzzwords. Automatically, your brain kind of shuts down and you start thinking, oh, Martin Luther King was a communist. He was a traitor, blah, blah, blah. You're not thinking, the whole thing through. It's the same thing when people hear Plato. Plato was a socialist. Plato was a fascist. You start hearing, in your brain, you start hearing the echoes of what you've been told and taught and what you've picked up and what kind of propaganda is swirling around your cerebral cortex. So, you jump to these conclusions. But it's always good when people, post something and they don't like what you're doing. More people watch it. I found that out the hard way.
Well, one of my favorite parts from Office Space is the part where the guy comes up with the jump to conclusions mat. And I think that what you're seeing in reference to everything else that you just said is the fact that people are seeing a lot of content on the internet and they have no idea what is fact, what is fiction. They've been denied a systematic process of critical thinking through which they can attain, high degrees of certainty. And I'm not saying that Plato's a good guy or a bad guy. I'm saying this, that during his lifetime, he might have had, like 400 students. And bring that up 2,500 years, and there are hundreds of thousands of people who are using specifically his work and Aristotle's work and the work of some other great scholars from Greece to beat us all over the head using words and contracts and things that we don't understand and persuasive rhetoric through media. And what you've been missing is really about giving people a decoder ring through a series of episodes so that they can insulate themselves from the persuasive rhetoric that has otherwise ruined this country.
Yeah, and in the context, these people lived in the times where, and Socrates was the perfect example, they said things that, weren't politically correct. I mean, think about how politically correct we are today. Not a lot different. They get in a lot of trouble. So there was, you had to kind of play it both ways sometimes. I think that can be confusing for people. But I ask myself this. Anytime I look at anything, because I've been sucked in and taken into these things in the past. That's my phone. Sorry, Rich. That's
independent media. That's how it works.
Calling me right now. Don't put that on the air.
Jack, you're on the air. That's what they're calling to say.
But I ask myself, is this propaganda? Because I've been pretty good about not being sucked into, Republican propaganda, Democrat propaganda, or just New World Order propaganda. We've had a very good filter. I was lucky to have some great teachers as soon as I, quote unquote, woke up. But that's the question we ask ourselves. And I'm perfectly happy with somebody listening to our show today or looking at my website or anything that we do and going, is this propaganda? And if they can prove that it is, please let me know and we'll make the correction.
I'll prove that it's propaganda right now. All forms of art and expression are forms of propagating, which is where the word propaganda comes from. And it's about propagating consciousness expression, whereas the people we're speaking out against are practicing consciousness suppression. And so that's the difference. Is this propaganda helping you to grow and learn and become you? Or are we trying to put you in a little corporate status quo box and control your life and live off of your ignorance? Neither Jack nor I are charging anybody for you to get to this content, nor to consider like the entire bodies of our work. We say if you like it, then you want to donate something afterwards or subscribe to what we're doing and help us produce more. Thank you. But we don't say, hey, here's, the wall that you have to jump over with fiscal currency and taxes and all this other stuff to get access to our work, which is what 99% of the other people who are selling stuff through Amazon or on TV or any place else that you're surrounded by media that's coming in through Fox News with commercials and all this other stuff. So it's about deciding which propaganda you want to immerse yourself in, which makes you more of the person that you want to be and less of a consuming, apathetic person who's just saying, I can't do anything about it and let me just run up my credit card bill. There are better ways to do things, and I think it's about time that we all started learning how to do these things for ourselves.
Well, yeah, I suggested to my last guest, credit strikes and debt boycotts. And again, people hear the word strike and boycott and they think I'm a communist or something. But that's what works, and that's what that's where I think we need to go. And I hope we can educate people into that direction, or at least to consider that. Maybe that's not the right thing to do, but at least put that in there as a consideration, as part of the debate, as part of a potential answer/solution. By the way, Peter just IM'd me and said you are right on the money with what you just said. So we got him still tuning in, and I'm glad that we do. This is a huge undertaking. And again, I want people to go check it out either on your website or mine, youaretragedyandhope.com. People need to go be a member over there. I think it's a really fun place to hang out. DeadlineLive.info. What you've been missing, exposing the noble lie. I mean, there is a lot of work in there, Richard. I can't imagine how you even get the time to do it. Kind of give people some of the footnotes here so they can understand why they should watch us and maybe what they have been missing.
All right. Well, the backstory on it is my story kind of broke out in 2006 through our mutual friend, Maria Heller, who published a project, Constellation MP3, kind of a podcast that I had produced. describing what I was seeing and that I wasn't seeing anyone really addressing the things that I was bringing up. From there, I started a podcast called 9/11 Synchronicity and grew an audience and then formed kind of a think tank, which is, a bad term, I guess, for it. But it was a group of people who noticed that there's a problem, and we were all trying to learn our way out of these problems, learn to outgrow the status quo, if you will. And from there, I started creating videos and films, and then I created the Peace Revolution podcast and Tragedy and Hope, which focused not on my work, but bringing together the art and activism of my friends who I saw, we're all trying to figure out different pieces and aspects of this. And then I saw by offering all their work together, letting people consume all of that work and think for themselves, they really get to fill in all the cracks that no single one of us can address by ourselves. And so I got together a group of people who put their media out for free, do it without commercials, do it consistently, and do it at a high quality and providing references and everything that you could want.
But what you've done, and I love this, is you're turning people on to all these different resources and sources so that they can go even get that treasure chest of information.
Well, and then that becomes, the obvious problem from there is now you're inundated with all this credible information that you can really sink your teeth into. And how do you organize it in such a way that you can understand it and then eventually use it in a meaningful way? Because if you're not learning something from us through Peace Revolution's educational podcast or our films or our community, then really it's entertainment. And our goal is not to entertain anybody. It's to give you tangible tools that you can use every day in life and apply to this research situation that we've all come into and said, all right, we haven't been given the truth in our educations. We're not getting the truth from the fourth estate, the corporate media that's on TV. And people like Jack and myself and Maria and several other people I work with decided to sacrifice some of their personal time and effort and say, let me put my energy into this and see if not just one person can make a change, but if people across the planet can make a change just through interacting. And I know we've inspired a lot of people to start creating their own media. And these days, it's very affordable. And that's kind of what we're trying to teach people. We take a do-it-yourself approach. So if you noticed at the end of what you've been missing, we kind of show you behind the scenes, because sometimes there are, technical tools and little things that just spark an idea in somebody else. And then we'll have a show that's, out there created by somebody in the audience that's better than anything we could have created on our own. And that's kind of what it's all about. It's about creating something that is meaningful and using that to kind of cross-pollinate audiences and get people mutually inspired, because there are literally millions and millions of people on the planet right now trying to figure out these same things. And I just thought there had to be a better way than it was being done.